do take a look at something like wellness, would you say that you're finding that in your database, you've got service providers? Is it an external thing, or are we really seeing companies make it part of their culture? Are there tools? If someone was to come to you and say to you, what can you do for me? What does the database have? Tell us a bit more about what you tell someone who wants to purchase, or not purchase because it's obviously free, but make use of your services.
Yes. Well, they might very well come through and they have to ask for what employee wellness initiatives could you recommend? You know, and then I would go to the service provider that are currently listed under employee wellness. They might want to have some kind of like financial advice for staff members, because that's your wellness sector as well. So and your emotional wellness. So there's a lot of that, but it's so varied. A lot of the employee wellness companies are listed cover a lot of those sectors. So it's not one is doing this and one is doing that. Excuse me. Various counseling services. I often get an inquiry, can you recommend a counselor for somebody who has had experienced trauma in the workplace? And we have that on the database as well. So there is a lot there, but there's also a lot out there that if the HR person does not have the time to go and find that specialist resource, come to me.
Wonderful, because you are curating the best of breed of HR resources. Because I mean, that's one thing, is we're almost drowning in information to the point where it's difficult to get it. So it's really wonderful that you've curated this and put it all in one place. So another question I'd like to ask you about HR, and I don't know if it's a COVID thing, but just in general, do you think that HR has a seat at the table when it comes to the executive level? I know we have it. Obviously, there's a chair with the CHRO on it. But do you think companies are now starting to be more serious about human capital?
Definitely is. You know, if I think back, I mean, how the world has evolved and how the HR world has evolved, not just for COVID, thankfully, not just that. It's actually they are seeing the value in HR. But a number of years ago, not to tell exactly how many, but my role as HR, the only HR person in the company, that there wasn't a team of HR people, and my title was the personnel lady.
Yes.
The personnel lady. There was no such thing as an HR business partner. Good heavens, what is that? So seat at the table, I think that really does depend on an individual and if you want to be part of the strategic side of the business, if you want to add value to how your return on investment with your talent management program, all that kind of thing actually fits into the bigger picture, or do you want to have the role in HR as just to kind of like put the plasters on, you know, and fill all the holes? And we wouldn't have job titles now as human capital executives and HR business partners if they were not wanted at the table. And more than ever now, they realize, I mean, I wouldn't say that they only realize it now, but your people of your company is your company. Whether you are 3 staff members, and if you need those 3 staff members, or whether you're 3,000 odd, it's very important that part of your business, that cog in the wheel, your human capital, does form part of the strategic business plan. And the only way to have that is to have that seat at the table.
Do you think that the trends that we see in HR, do you think globally they're all more or less the same? Or do you think that we still have Big Brother America, you know, launching off and being more advanced than the rest of the world?
You know, most people will say yes. I just disagree. I just think that as South Africans, we've got something to offer those Americans, because they have not been through. I'm not talking COVID here. I mean, just look at our power cuts and how resilient we have to be, and how we have to come up with to keep business going and to fight to get them and to survive. You know, I don't. Maybe technology is one thing that we may be a bit slow on there, but I actually think that we've come a long way, and we've got our space on the map, as in the global map. So I disagree that we're still learning from others. I think a lot of them can actually learn from South Africans.
I know you and I discussed this before, that we have this resilience because we're so used to in South Africa having to deal with a myriad of people and a myriad of different types of people in a myriad of different situations. So I hear what you're saying. Another question I wanted to ask you is, do you think that there's an appetite? And I don't know if this is a question you'd have an answer for, but do you think there's an appetite for South African workers overseas? Do you think we have, we've got a good name overseas as workers?
Yes, scarily, yes. And that's where the brain drain and all of that is coming into play. So I would say definitely. Even years ago when I traveled, it was a known thing. South Africans are hard workers. So it's something to really consider. It also becomes quite difficult for companies now to hold on to their key employees rather, key staff members, because you can now be offered a job and you don't necessarily have to go to that country to work there. You can work from here. So it's become so much more difficult to actually, not talent management, but to, I've gone having a brain moment here, but pretty much to actually retain your valuable staff members. Because the competition now, that global competition is real and can happen just like that. And I think that's what's quite important, is that it's no longer just, your benefits and what the company can offer you. It's really about what do you offer your employees? What is their experience? What is your employee experience? And a few years ago, it was all about customer experience. And you just do the work and you just meet those objectives and let's please those customers. But if your employees are not happy, I mean, this is not a thing that hasn't been uncovered, then they're not going to be able to provide that service to customers. And so now the employee experience has become quite a hot topic, and really it's being focused on like it should be.
You were talking about EVPs earlier. Just for people who are new to the channel, might not know the term, it's employee value proposition. And that's what you're talking about, right? Now, It's not just about, I'm going to give you a salary. It's what else am I going to do to make this a worthwhile place or a top business for you to work in? Other than flexibility, do you have a feel for what some of those EVPs are that across industries we're seeing?
Well, definitely top of the list right now is flexibility. I've actually just published an article on the HRworks website today that somebody wrote. It's worthwhile going to go and have a read about hybrid working and where it fits in with recruitment and that kind of thing. But, I think it's, once again, it is recognizing your employees as individuals. There are different circumstances that they are surrounded by. I think other than flexibility, if you get to know I hate the term get to know your staff members, but if you just allow that whole person to be at work and not just the employee side of that person, there's so much more that's going to come out of that employer-employee relationship.
I hear you. I also think that we've already touched on wellness being an EVP. What do you think? Do you think that there's room for training and development as part of the EVP?
Are you referring to for HR people itself?
No. So for employees, that they're really prioritizing learning and development right now, it seems.
Well, learning and development should also be an ongoing thing. I don't believe that anybody should be left to be stagnant in their role. You will always get those individuals that are quite happy to be stagnant, and they have their place in the organization, and that is fine. But your leaders, your team leaders, your learning and development is ongoing. Look at the shifts we've seen recently. There's new things to learn now and areas of development. So it really has to be continuous. And I think once again, just going back to the employee and how important it is for them to feel part of the company, to feel respected. Your employees are your biggest brand ambassador of your organization. And if you don't get that part right, that's already a step in the wrong, it's a bigger step in the wrong direction. So I think that if that's on top of mind, and if you make your employees feel valued, they will be fantastic brand ambassadors, and they will be excited to work for you.
I hear you. So, Adria, it has been fascinating learning more about HRworks in the industry from your perspective. We are halfway through the year. What is next up for HRworks?
Well, I'm very excited to say that we will be having our 11th annual HR conference and expo, which is taking place on the 14th of September this year at the Table Bay Hotel in Cape Town. And we're going to be hosting it as an online event as well. So those that are not in Cape Town or anywhere in the world would be able to join, which is quite exciting. And this will now obviously be after 2 years of no conferences, where we had a hybrid one last year. Not hybrid, we had a full-on virtual one last year. And it's really exciting to be able to know we're going to get back into the room with HR professionals and be able to just have that real networking where so much goodness comes out of, and understanding where each other have been and where each other are going to, which you just don't get with an online platform. So that's the conference. We've got 6 top speakers. Just to mention a couple, we've got Dr. Mark Button, who will be covering remuneration. We've got Professor Barney Jordan that will be dialing in from Belgium, and he's just written a book on trust. We were talking about trust, so that's going to be a really interesting topic as to what he's going to be covering. And then there's Johnny Goldberg, who always covers our employment law update. And then we've got a couple of HR executives. We've got Michelle Chetty she was ex-RCL, she's now with Maersk, who'll be speaking to us, as well as Ayanda Noganchi from Woolworths Financial Services. She's the HR executive there. So there's going to be a lot of good HR information shared at that event.
Wonderful. It sounds exciting. And as you say, most importantly, don't just attend just for the talks. There is going to be lots of networking as well. I think something else we would be quite happy to get back to again after COVID. If one would go to the conference, what would you say is the one thing you'd like to see people take away to make sure that the conference has added value to them?
I'm going to give you examples of feedback that we've received over the years, because we ended up on our 9th one. We were all excited to do our 10th one, and then boom, we couldn't. But for me, the most satisfying feedback that I receive is that they said that they've left there with more knowledge and all the good things that come out of a conference. But the one that really stands out for me is that they feel inspired to go back and continue their role in HR, and they feel once again excited to be in HR. And I think that is my biggest takeout from the event, is when I get feedback like that. And that's not just from one or two, that is what trends in the feedback, is that they're inspired. Speakers are always wonderful, everything else is always wonderful, but being inspired and excited to be in HR, that's definitely key.
And so important, because as you said earlier, we've all had to learn so much, and we all are now learning to adapt into the new normal. And it's good to know that we've got the support of HR's got the support that they need in a time that people have really lent on them quite heavily. So that is fabulous. Adria, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been lovely chatting to you. For our viewers and listeners, we will on the stage notes put Adria's contact details, the HRworks website, and information to her conference, and then also a link to a Women's Day event that is also being planned. So Adria, thank you so much, and I look forward to chatting to you again.
Thank you, Innocent. It's been wonderful to chat to you today. It's been a wonderful conversation, and I look forward to hearing more of these that you're going to be producing.
Thank you so much. Well, everyone, again, another interesting session with a coffee companion, and so lovely to see Adria's take on what our HR executives need and our HR departments need in order to keep them going. Please remember that the HRworks platform is free to use, so hop over there and go and see how it can support you. As always, if you've enjoyed this episode, think over here on the page, if you're in YouTube, there's a little button that you can click to subscribe. Click like as well, and then you click the notification bell so you can see when our next video is coming out. If you are joining us from LinkedIn or Facebook, as always, it's fabulous to have you here with us. And we would like to see you comment, share, and like our content as well. And then until next week, when we visit again at the Performance Cafe.